I mean, this is propaganda, plain and simple. This whole thing is propaganda. So watching their propaganda to see what they think is the best strategy or whatever is extremely valuable. They are telling us effectively what they discovered in their market research. If we just listen to it and think about what they're saying, it can be endlessly valuable to us. And that is why I love watching this stuff. It tells us what they think. It tells us what they've discovered with the millions of dollars that they have to spend on this stuff. This is a TV show called Flashpoint. If you're unfamiliar, it's owned and operated by our old buddy Kenneth Copeland. On screen is the host. This is Gene Bailey. He is an election denier naturally, and they're about to get Mike Lindell, of all people, on this TV show to talk about the 2022 midterm elections. I don't know what to expect. I have to imagine it's going to be bat crazy. Let's just buckle up and see what he has to say. Without further ado, let's watch.
Election Day +1. Glad you're with us. Man, we got great news. If you haven't shared this program, go share it on all your social media. If you're watching on YouTube and you want to share this, go share the Rumble feed. Go share what you can find at govictory.com/flashpoint. Be a part of what God's doing right now. All right, well, let me get right to the man of the hour, our good friend Mike Lindell. Mike, thank you for joining us. Give us an update on what
Here we go.
you're seeing.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I went to bed last night.
Oh, let me give you the context for this. I meant to mention, before we listen to what Lindell has to say here, Lindell famously claimed that he had some kind of some special access to the voting machines, that he knew he was going to be able to tell when people flipped votes, when Democrats flipped votes from Republican to Democrat. He was going to be able to tell through some weird means. I don't exactly know. I covered this the other day on my channel. And he said he was going to be watching it from Tennessee, a real-time crime desk or something like that. This is Lindell on his show, The Lindell Report, on Lindell TV. Listen to this.
And I'm telling everyone out there, we are watching from every angle. There's people in every state, every county, every precinct, Brandon. Remember, they might think you can't look and see what's going inside that black box, but we can now in real time through something called the Edison Report, everybody.
I have no idea what he's talking about here. I was planning on doing a little more research on it, but I haven't gotten around to that yet.
We have cyber guys watching this. I looked at a thing today. It was on my Twitter back from November of 2020, and they showed CNN 20,000 votes dropping right off at Donald Trump's total in real time.
That did not happen. So anyways, yeah, Lindell, that's the context for it. Let's see what he has to say here.
At about 2 a.m, and I just seen they stole Matt DePerno's race. They did a 200,000 vote dump in Michigan, the traditional Michigan dump at 1:58 in the morning. And but I woke up this morning, I sat and I prayed. I bet you I prayed for probably 2-3 hours, and things have changed. Things have changed. Everything is looking. I sat, Gene, and I prayed, and I'm going, you know what?
He must realize that the midterms were absolutely terrible for Donald Trump, right? In every way. They couldn't have been worse for Trump. The thing we learned from the midterms is that Donald Trump effectively no longer controls the Republican Party. You lose if you vote for Trump, or you lose if you stand with Trump. A lot of Republicans won the midterms. It was really, really bad for Republicans overall. The overarching message from the midterms is that the people that Trump endorsed lost basically across the board. People don't want Trump. They want to move on from him, and they want DeSantis. In fact, I talked about this the other day, but there's this subreddit called r/conservative. It's like a fever dream, dude. This place is insane. But I've been going through this subreddit, just trying to get an idea of what conservatives think of the midterm elections. We've got stuff like, okay, I got a lot of stuff like people are complaining about the fact that there were libertarian candidates because they pulled away from the Republican votes, or they believed that they pulled away from Republican votes, right? In reality, in my opinion, I speculate that the Libertarian voters are Republican voters who felt like Donald Trump has too much control over the party and they didn't want to vote for a Trump candidate. Trump was never entitled to those votes. The Republican was never entitled to those votes, in my opinion. They were never going to get them. That's how it seems to me. So we got a lot of posts about that. Let's just click inside of this one and see what some of the comments say. Still can't believe Pennsylvania Republicans let Oz run. So Oz was a Trump-endorsed candidate, a Trump-backed candidate. And overall, this is one of the most popular comments here, 1.6 thousand upvotes. Oz was not popular. The only reason that he even came close is because he was Trump-endorsed. And it's clear now that Trump-endorsed candidates will not win. They are a liability, not an asset. Don't run dogshit candidates, especially in toss-up races. If you want libertarian voters, then support libertarian policies. That's the general consensus behind that message. But look at this. Post-election, Trump fires at Florida Governor DeSantis. I got 1.1 million more votes in Florida. That's what Trump tweeted about. Look at what the people are saying in this. This is going to get ugly. To be honest, DeSantis doesn't even need to respond to him. Only one of them is in office right now. Besides, DeSantis distancing himself from Trump is a good thing. DeSantis is as cool as a cucumber, and people will see that in the way he deals with Trump's little toddler rants. DeSantis is 10,000 times better than Trump in pretty much every measurable way. Trump may flail around, but he's finished. The only way he wins primaries is if he's unchallenged. These are things with lots and lots of upvotes. I've changed my mind. Please don't unban him, Elon. 31 upvotes on that. If Trump makes himself a villain, the media will try and pit them against each other and prevent them from turning DeSantis into the next Trump. But if they were all buddy-buddy all the time, they could make DeSantis Trump 2.0. Trump may very well be passing the torch in the most bizarre but effective way possible. I still believe Trump will run in 2024, but I would bet he makes more gaffes and gets less and less support from conservatives from here on out. He's simply too old, but passing the torch to anyone with an endorsement will sick media on that person. And after seeing this election, we saw how powerful the media is. DeSantis handles the media very well. So if they can't roll Trump hate over on DeSantis, then he will win big. That's just a theory. People love DeSantis, and they are starting to really hate Trump is the point. This program we're watching here with Lindell and all of these other people, this is the Trump show. That's what these people care about. That's what it is all about with these people. Trump and how great he is and how much he controls everything and blah, blah, blah. Trump, 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 Trump. It is all about Trump on this show. And election fraud and all of the other garbage that Trump claims. Every claim that Trump makes, they repeat. So I'm definitely going to be interested to see what they have to say. So let's continue on with Mike Lindell and see how he bags on DeSantis or puffs up Trump or talks about voter fraud or whatever. I'm really not sure how this is going to go.
If we would have got this huge red wave, okay, I want everyone to think about this. Do you know how hard it would be for me to tell everyone that we're going to lose our country if we don't get rid of these electronic voting machines? And so the way it's laying out, it's laying out perfect. We got a divine gift yesterday morning when we got up and we go all across the country, not just Maricopa. I believe now it's up to 32 states had problems with their machines. All the different machine companies, where their ballots didn't go in, and I'm sorry.
Great, then prove it. If that's true, if there were problems with machines, prove it.
Put it on the floor. Oh, you already voted? No, I did. Here's my mail-in ballot. They called their sheriff. We have all over the country was the same.
That's really interesting that he gave that very specific example and pretends that this is something that happened a lot and that he heard about. He completely made this up. This is a made-up, fabricated problem that he actually told people to do before. He was like, hey, if you get a mail-in ballot, then go vote in person and then bring the mail-in ballot to your sheriff and complain about the fact that you voted in person, but you got this mail-in ballot. As if it's illegal to have a mail-in ballot in the first place. It's just bizarre, dude.
News, everybody. It made Fox News. It made worldwide news. So it puts it in the head, hey, maybe there is problem with the electronic voting machines.
There is not. There is not a problem with the electronic voting machines.
And then we've seen, Gene, what we've seen is all the stuff they've done in Florida, where they, clamped down mail-in voting and early voting, all these things that they did down there, laws that they changed. Now, they don't have rid of the machines yet, but it did show you, because when we were watching, there was very little manipulation in Florida. Remember, we were watching everything through the Edison report.
Isn't that convenient? Very little manipulation in Florida because your guy won. How about that? This is exactly like in 2020 when they focused in like a laser on quote-unquote corruption, quote-unquote fraud in Arizona and Pennsylvania and Georgia. But they didn't say a word about fraud in North Carolina, Florida, or Ohio. Weird, right? Weird that the fraud only ever happens when you lose. That should have been assigned to everybody, right?
Clamp down mail-in voting and early voting, all these things that they did down there, laws that they changed. Now, they don't have rid of the machines yet, but it did show you, because when we were watching, there was very little manipulation in Florida. Remember, we were watching everything through the Edison report and our cyber team. And
right. So let's look this up because I'm really curious. I have no idea what he is talking about when he says Edison report. Edison report is the #1 source of news and information about lighting. Established in 1998 by editor Randy Reed, Edison report consistently delivers up-to-the-minute and relevant headlines and stories about lights, light bulbs, lamps, you name it. If it's about lights, then the Edison report covers it. What is the Edison report? What is he talking about? I thought that there was going to be some weird, thing that he was going to reference here that's going to give us a little context on what the hell the Edison report is. No, there's nothing. I couldn't find anything on what the Edison report was regarding votes. Edison Research. Okay, there is an election polling service called Edison Research. I have no idea what he means by the Edison report. Apparently, there's an Edison Research thing that's like a polling company. What is Mike Lindell even talking about?
Florida's kind of what the country should look like when have high gas prices and borders broken, fentanyl, and...
Yeah, but that's not the case. That's all fabricated nonsense by the Republicans, by the Trumpists.
They even won that Dade County. I mean, this whole country would be red. But I am so optimistic now, and we've got a plan now. We're going to treat every state like it's our only state. I just got off the call that we do once a week with thousands and thousands of people on the ground, and I told them we're going to leave no state behind. Every state we're going through.
Leave no state behind. Is that anything like leave no child behind?
There'll be lawsuits in some of them we have to do very little, and some will have to do a lot. Pennsylvania is #1 on the list because of what happened in Pennsylvania. Both Mastriano won and Dr. Oz won.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God. I got to write this one down. Holy mother. God, this dude is something else.
And there's a law in Pennsylvania, everybody remembers, you can't have more votes than voters. And
that's not a law in Pennsylvania. That's just a fact. You literally can't have more votes than voters. So, and there weren't. There were not more votes than voters in Pennsylvania this time around or in 2020. This is just completely made up.
They did it in 2020 and turned in their electors. It's against the country. It's against their law. Well, it looks like they...
What law? What is he talking about? Which law was it? Tell me which law specifically so I can look it up.
Did the same thing again, Gene. So we find out that one Monday morning. We've got lawyers out there, cyber teams, and I'm going to probably head down to Arizona because we still have critical down there that we did all 3 win in Arizona.
Boy, that's true. With the Pennsylvania, line. People are asking, and I think we got to get it simple. But Mike, what do we do? I, along with a lot of other people, do not believe that Fetterman won by any slightest stretch of the imagination. That's
Oh, great. Here's the election denialism, of course. Oz conceded. I don't know why they're going down this road. I don't know why they even care when Oz came out and said, okay, Fetterman won, you're right. I'm going to back away and support, Fetterman now because he won and his success is the country's success and blah, blah, blah. I don't know that he said all of that. That's just the idea that I'm conveying here. Why are they going after Fetterman like this and claiming that there was fraud when even the candidate himself is not claiming fraud?
I just don't believe that. And it's not because I'm so pro-Oz. I just don't think Fetterman won. And so with that...
Look, I don't care if you believe it or not. You need evidence. That's the thing. You need evidence to make claims like this. These people have none. It's never been about evidence. Even in 2020, it wasn't about evidence. It was about convincing gullible suckers that they knew what they were talking about when they absolutely didn't. That's what it's always been about, and that's what it's about now, too. All they care about is convincing gullible suckers that are listening to this show that there really was fraud when there is no evidence for it in the first place.
So what do we do? What should we do as Americans, Mike, to help? What do we need to do to help this?
You need to smile, shut your mouth, accept the fact that the candidate conceded, and move on with your lives. That's what. You know what? Brian Kemp won in Georgia. You think I like that? No, I don't. But you know what I'm not doing? I'm not standing here screaming that there was fraud from the top of my lungs because my person didn't win. That's something I'm not doing. Because I'm a grown-up. Because I'm an adult. Welcome to the world of being an adult.
For one thing, everybody should go to Frank's speech and get educated. We're putting everything up there. Evidence has been up there from the 2020 election for months, and it's to know that.
No, I've been there, actually. There is no evidence up there on Frank's speech. Let's just take a quick gander, though. Okay, so he claims that there's evidence up there on Frank's speech, right? We got news, Frank's speech, RSS feeds. Don't need that. TV, we got the different TV clips. Podcasts, live TV, fixed 2021st. This may be where the evidence is, supposed evidence. Professor Halderman's declaration, that's not evidence, that's an anecdote. This is some D-bag that I don't even know making claims. Class action lawsuit is not evidence. This is just him suing people. Cyber Symposium is not evidence. Once again, this is just anecdotes. Look, documentaries and you talking about something is not evidence. Proof from internet sources, okay? Hugo Chavez.pdf. Sequoia Voting Systems, Inc. uses vote counting software developed, owned, and licensed by foreign-owned Smartmatic, a company linked to the Venezuelan government of Hugo Chavez. None of this is true. Wait, isn't Hugo Chavez dead? Chavez died in 2013, March 5th, 2013. He is not the leader of the Venezuelan government. What is this document? Where did they find this? Did they write this themselves? I'm inclined to believe that maybe they did. And look at the what do you call it? Like the footnotes here. What are these websites? Bradblog.com? What is bradblog.com? Like, what is all of this stuff? This is the supposed evidence that he's giving us. Is any of this even real? 200,000 Biden votes dumped overnight. I mean, all of this has been explained. Do you know how late into the night they were counting just the other day for the 2022 midterms? I stayed up until 2 a.m. They were still counting votes. When I woke up the next morning, they were counting votes. That's how it works. They count votes overnight. They add them to the totals. Everybody was getting votes. Trump got votes. Biden got votes. There is no point in time at which Biden got 200,000 votes and Trump didn't get any added to his total. That did not happen. That was incorrect. Gustavo Delfino. Okay, wow. Affidavit. Affidavits are not evidence. Well, they are a type of evidence, but they are not. They're circumstantial, anecdotal evidence. Depending on the credibility of the person signing it, it could mean something. Zuckerberg donated $400 million. So, if this is even true, that's a lot of fucking money. I don't know that that's true at all, but even if it were. So, who cares? Who cares if he donated $400 million? I don't care. I mean, people are allowed to donate money to various different PACs and stuff. That's not illegal. That's not voter fraud. I mean, I do care that he donated that much money, but it's not voter fraud. Like, and none of this stuff stands up at all. Eric Coomer, he's the CEO of Dominion Voting Systems, and he's suing Mike Lindell and what's her name, Sidney Powell. I love how in the quote-unquote evidence they provide, they are alleging evidence. They're not providing the evidence like they said. This is supposed to be the evidence. This is them alleging it. Another video surface. What is a video surface? I thought videos were digital. I didn't know they had a surface. I thought surfaces were reserved for physical objects. But okay, another video surface, whatever that is, where Dominion's CEO Eric Coomer allegedly explain to elections officials how to alter votes in the Dominion voting machines. Who wrote this? Allegedly? Natalie Dagenhart. Who the hell is that? 1,300 views. Where is this from? Opinion. Oh, check that out. It's an opinion article on what news outlet? You got me? Why did he take like pictures of screenshots of Microsoft Edge here? This is complete garbage. This is not evidence. This is nonsense. Anyways, back to Mike Lindell. The evidence is not on your website, Mike, of voter fraud in 2020. I should go through that evidence, every single piece, and break it all down at some point.
Educated so you can say, hey, he really did. Oz really did win.
If you believe that, you need to prove it with evidence, actual evidence, not pretend evidence.
We have coming out of the Edison report. This is what we used, and this.
Yeah, I don't know what the Edison report is. Once again, you're gonna have to give me something, anything. Tell me what the Edison report is, Mike.
This is, everybody can look at everybody can see this. Every vote in the country goes through Edison Research in New Jersey. So you pull this out in real time. You can actually, if you go to Jeff O'Donnell's website, or we have a lot of them posted on Frank's Speech. We'll have them all up there tomorrow. Gene, you can see every time Oz caught up, they popped in 90,000 votes for Fetterman. And they front-loaded almost 200,000. Now, they did it at least 4 times that we're seeing, and it's almost 400 or 500,000 votes. We'll have the final totals very soon.
Okay, I think I figured out what he's saying. From what I can tell, I think he's saying the Edison report is like exit polls. People, like, walk out of the election station or whatever you want to call it. And there are poll workers there who, like, interview them, like, who did you vote for, and blah, blah, blah. Exit polls can be an indication of who voted which way or whatever. It does not indicate how the vote is going to go, particularly because the people who are being interviewed are the ones that are there on voting day voting. And the people who show up on voting day typically lean Republican. So, obviously, if you take the exit polls and use that to base your data off of it, of course it's going to look like Republicans got more votes. I think that's what the guy's talking about. What a ridiculous, bizarre way to view things. Like, he's completely blind to the fact that his methods are flawed, like deeply flawed. He's not even looking at the potential flaws in the system.
That's what they did, and you can see it for yourself. You go, this could only be done by computers. You don't have all of a sudden 200,000 or 90,000 people voted. You couldn't even put that many ballots in that quick. Right. And so we caught them, and we knew we were very.
You could put those many ballots in that quickly if you had 15 people counting, for example. counting through. They count a stack of, 500 ballots, and you've got 3,000 people in a facility all counting at the same time. And they walk over an hour later after counting all of their ballots, and they enter their figures. Or you run it through a system that allows it, or you run it through a system that counts them automatically for you and adds them. It is possible to do. I don't know what this dude is even talking about.
Prepared this time with the best technology in the world, and that Edison report, I guarantee you, Gene, they're going to do something about that, because I was very open of where we got a lot of this data. They're going to shut that down in the future, but we had one shot to catch them all.
Okay, like I said, I looked it up, and I think the Edison report is just exit polling, from what I can tell. I have no idea what it would be otherwise, or where else he'd be getting, information about whatever. But exit polling is not voting data. There's a lot more. Okay, they don't go to every single precinct, first of all. And also, they don't count mail-in ballots. They don't count whatever other thing. This is probably why I encourage people to show up on the day and vote in person specifically, and discourage people from using mail-in systems or whatever.
And we are. And I'm going to tell everybody, pray for judges. Again, I'm going to say, if you know judges, encourage them just to accept the cases and be a judge. Just make a fair ruling, whatever that is. Right. That's all we ask. Please don't kick the can for standing. We need to save our country.
Okay, standing is not kicking the can. Standing is an old concept from the 1400s. If you want to bring a lawsuit against somebody, you have to be injured by the thing specifically, or you have to be representing a person who was injured by it. So if somebody dies, and it was your family member, you can bring a suit against somebody for wrongful death. Or you, as their lawyer, can bring a suit against them or something. Some rando out in the middle of nowhere who just heard about the case cannot bring suit. You know why? Because if you did, you'd have 16 different people bringing, or even 10,000 people bringing suit against this one company for the exact same thing and paying out to all of those people. Those people don't deserve it. It was the person who was injured who deserved the money. The company does not deserve to pay anything to you if you were not specifically injured by whatever it is they did. That is why standing is important. And like I said, standing is a very, very old concept. Mike Lindell absolutely hates the concept of standing, apparently, because, I guess standing has prevented him from filing lawsuits because he has no standing. He wasn't injured by anything. He tried to sue machines. If you remember that meme a while back, he tried to sue machines because the machines were blah, 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 whatever thing. Who was injured by the machines? Who is suing those machines? Who is responsible for those machines and paying the debts that those machines incurred by doing something wrong? And how do we resolve it? Mike Lindell, just by saying the whole standing thing just now, reveals a deep lack of understanding. He has no idea how this shit works. None. And it's obvious.
Yes, we sure do. Speaking of Arizona, I want to show you guys this, and I'll get Rick, I'll get you to comment on it. Maricopa County's, I didn't know if you guys saw this or not. The recorder, Stephen Ricker, chairman of the county board of supervisor, Bill Gates, confirmed an incredible 20% of polling places are experiencing problems with machines tabulating votes. Just what Mike said. Watch.
Recorder.
Who did they say? Bill Gates said this? I have no idea what they're talking about. I haven't seen any evidence that there have been problems with tabulating or whatever. What?
Elections here in Maricopa County as a team, and we're very excited about how things are going today on Election Day. We had all 223 vote centers have opened. We've already had over 45,000 people who have checked in and already voted today. We did want to come out and discuss one issue that's going on out there in about 20% of the vote centers. Again, we have 223 vote centers across the county. In about 20% of those, when people will go and they try and run the ballot through this tabulator, maybe 1 out of every 5 or so of those ballots, they're not going through.
Okay, we're going to have to fact check this in real time. Who was this person? 3805. I don't know who this person is. Maricopa County Recorder Stephen Richer. Let's look him up and see if this is actually the guy. It is not. This is not Stephen Richer. Let me show you what Stephen Richer looks like. Maricopa County, Stephen Richer. Images. This is Stephen Richer. Stephen Richer endures a job that's psychologically unfun, quote unquote. This is Stephen Richer. This is not. This is Stephen Richer. This is not Stephen Richer. Stephen Richer? Not Stephen Richer. Stephen Richer? Who the fuck is this? I have no idea. Why should I be listening to him? I don't know who this is, and I really don't care. Anybody in the chat have any idea who this is? I'm just checking through. Yeah, Stephen Richer and Stephen Poorer, absolutely. Having trouble feeding the tabulator, that's not the same as the tabulator is taking votes from one political party and giving them to another. That's a totally different situation. I'm okay with the tabulator having trouble like feeding it in. That's a physical issue. I really don't care that much. Now, if it was flipping votes to somebody else, that's different. That's not what's happening. Once again, these people are not trustworthy at all. Literally nothing that they say or do is trustworthy. Nothing. We should automatically distrust anything that they say by default.
Ballot through this tabulator, maybe 1 out of every 5 or so of those ballots, they're not going through.
Not going through. Imagine that, Rick Green. It just...
As if, like, when ballots don't go through. I mean, this isn't true anyways. That wasn't even Stephen Richer, who they claimed it was. But even if it were true, as if, like, they try to run the ballots through and it doesn't work, and they're like, well... we got to throw these in the trash now, I guess. Like, we tried to run the ballots through. This set of ballots didn't work, so we're just going to trash them because we can't. The computer can't count them for some reason. So just, toss them out.
I can't believe, I do believe it, but it's like, really? You guys are doing this again?
I feel like it's 1991 and we're watching the American troops roll into Iraq, and that minister, whatever his name was, is standing there saying, everything's fine. There's nothing to see here as this military's being decimated. This guy standing there saying everything's
Wow, that's a dated reference.
fine. And wait, 1 out of 5 ballots is not being counted. Come on, people. It's like a third.
Okay, once again, 1 out of 5 ballots not being counted. That's not what they said. They said that they had trouble sticking them into the tabulator. That does not mean they stopped. That doesn't mean, even if this were true, which you notice he said, that guy said, he didn't actually say his name. Weird, right? How that works? It's not like they're taking the ballots and throwing them in the trash when they don't feed into the system for one reason or another. These people live in a fantasy land. They will come up with absolutely anything to imply that the election was stolen. This is like a fever dream for them.
Third world country situation. And as we were talking about earlier, how is it that Florida was able to get everything done and not have problems? Because they had good leadership. What in the world is going on in Maricopa County? Katie Hobbs is the Secretary of State. That's the leadership in charge of this election process. And once
No, that's not why they're having trouble counting votes, quote unquote, in Arizona. The reason that votes are taking longer to come in Arizona is because of the laws in Arizona. You're not legally allowed to count them until a certain point in time. Florida busts through it because of their laws. Notice Florida was not the source of controversy in 2020, right? People weren't claiming that Florida was committing fraud, voter fraud or whatever at the time. But there was a lot of claim about Arizona. I'm sorry, but there were a lot of claims about Arizona voter fraud. The following election, laws are passed and things are changed and people, are elected to offices and put into judgeships and all that stuff. And now Florida just zips right through their count and Arizona gets stalled every 3 minutes. Is there really any wonder why? Seriously.
Again, it's a disaster. But we experienced the same thing in Houston, Texas, where we have bad leadership in Harris County. Same kind of problems. It's ineptitude. I hope it's not manipulation, but you know what? I mean, Mike's right. It's an environment where it makes it easy to cheat, and this is the kind of stuff we've got to put an end to.
It is not actually an environment where it's easy to cheat at all. Do you have any idea how hard it is to get away with election fraud in the United States, especially since Republicans started screaming about it like banshees over the past couple of years? It's nearly impossible to get away with a single instance of voter fraud, let alone a systemic instance of it, like where you go out and commit voter fraud on a systemic wide level that would change results or whatever. Nearly impossible. I can't even imagine this happening.
We do have to put an end to it. In fact, let me play this from Arizona State Representative-elect Austin Smith, because he calls it out. Watch.
Arizona, are we fired up tonight for freedom? Are we fired up for liberty? Are we fired up for the Constitution? Thank you guys for being here tonight. How many of you voted today in person? Raise your hand. That's a good, healthy number. So I kind of want to give you guys an update and talk about what the future is going to look like.
Yeah, they heavily encouraged everybody to vote in person. The Republicans did in person on the day, because that produces a red wave when they do that. And they know that. The red wave is a phenomenon that they've known about for a long, long, long time. That's also why they tried to enact laws that makes it so that you're not allowed to count votes count the mail-ins until after the election ends, after the polls end, because it will produce a red wave, and then they can demand people stop counting votes. Or they can claim there was fraud when suddenly, in the beginning, Republicans are getting really, really good numbers, and suddenly, now that all of the same day voting ballots are counted, all of the mail-ins are being counted, and now they can claim fraud because Democrats are gaining way, way more votes way quicker than before. That's their strategy. That was their strategy in 2020. That was their strategy this time, too.
And get the heck off of here, because you guys don't want to see my ugly mug. But what happened today in Maricopa County is criminal. The next
Come on, guys. Get over yourselves.
state legislature not only has a duty, but an obligation to fix the problems that have happened in Maricopa County.
An obligation to fix the problems, yet here we are again, Mike, with what's going on. But, as the day has gone by today, there is this wave, if I can use that, there's a wave of excitement that things are not as bad as they thought they were.
Yeah, they are, actually. They're really terrible. You know why? Every time a party controls the White House, the opposite party takes it away in the midterms. Every single time. And it's an average of like 28 House seats are given to the other party or something like that. And an average of 4 to 6 Senate seats or something. Democrats carried this midterm. Democrats took it away. And it's absolutely nuts. The fact that the Republican Party didn't steal everything this election shows how deeply hated the Republican Party is right now. They should have been able to take control of all kinds of shit this election, and they didn't. They failed miserably. That's really bad news for Republicans. Really bad news.
They were. And that's what you're saying as well.
Yeah, that's right. And it's very similar to what we did in the primaries. Remember, we told everyone, and the president, our real president, told everyone.
our real president. Come on, get over yourself, man. Trump lost. He's not president. There's a decent chance he'll never be president again.
Vote same day, it's harder for them to steal. They can't take from the voter rolls in with all these mail-in votes. That's what down in Florida, they put in things like this, even though they still have machines they have to get rid of. But this is what, just like before in the primary, Kari Lake was losing. She's down by 10%. Now come the same day votes. And she's 70-30, 70-30. She passed by. She's up at 12. She's up 12,000 in the middle of the night. They shut them down, put paper over the windows, put up the barricades, and we wait 3 days to find out that Kari won.
What is he talking about? I have no clue what he's referring to right now. They shut him down, put paper over the windows. What? Vote counting is an extremely sensitive process. You're only allowed to be in that room if you are qualified and authorized to be in that room. It is extremely important that it's not tainted. You have Republican and Democrat observers in that room watching and waiting and making sure that everything is above board and fair and everything else. That's how it worked in 2020 and 2016. That's how it worked in 2022. Trump supporters were rioting at some election counting locations. They showed up and were beating on the doors, trying to get in to where the votes were being counted. To prevent the vote count from being spoiled, the counters, Republicans and Democrats, put cardboard over the windows so that the rioting, extremist MAGA nutcases couldn't see in back in 2020 and spoil what they were doing. That was with good reason. And it was done by people from both parties. But Mike Lindell wants to make this out like this is a constant occurrence, and Democrats are doing it to try to cover things up, hide things or whatever. It's just nonsense from these people, 24/7, beginning to end. It's always nonsense with them.
Kari Lake at one time last night was down a couple 100,000 votes. But remember, this was the cheating. This was the steal. And now they're counting same day votes, and she's going to blow by it. She's going to win. We figured.
Maybe. She may win. We'll see. I don't know yet. It's too early to know for sure, but that's possible.
As of the time this is being edited, Kari Lake did, in fact, lose her bid for governor of Arizona. And surprise, surprise, she is screaming about voter fraud. I think the fact that screaming about voter fraud didn't hand Trump the presidency last time is a sign they aren't going to accomplish anything except destroy democracy. So most people didn't bother, including Mastriano, governor candidate for Pennsylvania, and Mehmet Oz, Senate candidate for Pennsylvania. They both conceded when they lost, but not Kari Lake. She's still screaming about it.
Out, Gene, or actually their team did. They figured if she was within 16% when they were stealing them, if she stayed within that she would win by the same day votes. But here's what happened.
I got to write this one down too. 41-42. Hang on. This is like an insane fever dream.
They didn't expect how many people were going to come and vote. Once again, overrunning those algorithms worked. And I'll tell you what, Kari Lake, Mark Fincham, and Blake down there, when they get in, that's going to be a gateway, an opening, finally, to access machines and get rid of these machines, not just in the state of Arizona, but they will be a prototype of for the rest of the country.
What he's saying here is correct. This is very concerning. If Kari Lake wins, which, it's still on the fence. We don't know what's going to happen yet. If she does win, first of all, it's going to be really hard to get her out. And second, she's going to be able to appoint the Secretary of State, I believe, for Arizona, which is the person that controls elections. It sets them up, makes sure everything is going well and above board and all that other stuff. She's an election denier and an extremist and a Trump endorsee. The very last thing we want is for Kari Lake to win. That's a serious race that we should be watching very, very closely, but we just don't know the result yet. In my opinion, I suspect Kari Lake may actually win, and that concerns me.
I mean, it's very simple here. Paper ballots, hand counted. Other countries do it. The Netherlands switched over in 5 months. Germany, France, they count them. They have one-day elections. Can you believe that? A national holiday.
You know why those other countries are capable of having one-day elections? Because they use machines to count their votes for them. They can feed their votes into a system to count them. You have 330 million people in this country, okay? Either you can have all paper ballots hand counted, or you can have it done in one day. You can't have both. And he must understand that, right? At a fundamental level, he must know that. He knows how this system works. He knows entirely too much about the election system and voting and everything to really believe that this was stolen or to not fully understand how this operates.
Here's your election, Gene.
Yeah, amen to that. Well, we need that. All right, I want to show you this. Rick, let me show you this. This tweet from ABC 15. Outstanding non-provisional ballots in Arizona confirmed by county. Vast majority are election day early vote drop-offs. Typically, numbers divisible by 10 are still estimates. So you look at the numbers. Graham, 3,450. La Paz, 992. Maricopa, 428,000.
Okay, again, like you saw earlier where these people just... Like, I don't know what point they're trying to get at with this data yet. I may not even, like, contest this, but you saw earlier when they straight up showed the wrong person saying something. Claimed it was Stephen Rich or whatever. What? Yeah, Stephen Richer. Whoever the hell that is. And it wasn't Stephen Richer at all. Don't trust a single word out of their mouths. Not one word out of their mouths.
Pinal, 24,863. Yuma, 8,200. The state, 465,505. Oh, that kind of goes right in line with what Mike is saying there, Rick.
Yeah, that's why they're saying now, 90 to 99% will be counted by Friday. I mean, are you kidding me? Is Fetterman doing the counting for Arizona too? This is ridiculous.
Right.
Hey, you guys didn't want counting machines in Arizona. You guys didn't want automatic ballot machines. You didn't want any of that stuff. And now you know what you get? Now you get to wait a few days while they're hand counted. That's what happens when you act like idiots. You end up with stupid results. Welcome to the real world. And they know that. They know exactly why this is going to take a lot longer. Because of all the BS that they pulled in Arizona over the past couple of years. That's why. That's why things are playing out this way. But they're still going to use it to their advantage to propagandize. Welcome to the world of Republicans. Of modern-day Republicans.
Ballots, Mike's 100% right. It needs to be paper ballots. When I had my recount 20 years ago, we were able to know that night what the total was. We asked for our recount. We were able to do the recount in a day because everybody could put their hands on the physical ballots. That's the only way we're going to have trust in our elections again.
How many ballots were they counting? And how many people were counting them in the first place? Seriously, do they not get this? I can't believe for a second that they don't understand the concept of, you have 80 million physical ballots and only like 20,000 people doing the counting. It's naturally going to take forever to do it. I cannot for a second accept that they don't understand that concept.
Got to be absolutely transparent, absolutely verified through a recount process, and then you got to have the legal remedies like Mike's talking about, judges that will hear these cases and give us a chance to bring them forward. So we'll get to that point, but it's going to take time. If it wasn't for Mike and the others that are leading in this area, and like you mentioned, my friend Mark Fincham, we've got good people that are going to get us there. But as we said early in the program, it's going to take a while, and it's going to take probably a couple more election cycles before we get this done in all 50 states.
Well, that's true, but we're on the right
with God,
path.
all things are possible. We're going to say we're going to get it done a lot sooner than that.
All right, let me show you this.
I'm with you, brother.
This from Blake Masters. He posted this. This was this morning. He said, with the remaining ballots outstanding, we're confident we will win. So this is great.
Who was Blake Masters running against? I forget. Let's see. Oh, he was running against Mark Kelly. Yeah, Blake Masters is almost certainly not going to win.
This is good news, everybody. Sound like I'm Mike Lindell. Everybody, there's good news. So this is where I want you to be encouraged. Everybody watching, whether you're watching this live right now, Wednesday night, or you're seeing this delayed, be encouraged. Keep your faith up here. Don't throw in the towel.
If God wanted them to succeed here, then he would have snapped his fingers and made them succeed. Should they take this as a message, all of their prayer and yelling and screaming and activism and crying and all that other garbage, and they're still losing? Should they take it as a religious sign that God does not want them to win? Maybe they should, right?
Mike, imagine if Kari Lake, it would not have been unusual, had we not experienced what we experienced in 2020, for someone in Kari Lake's position to go ahead and concede.
No, that would have been unusual right now. Kari Lake should not have conceded at this point. You know what he's doing? He's trying to make his audience feel like they successfully did something by acting like fools in 2020.
Right. Like you said, when they were 20.
Down by 200,000. She got down by 13.5%. I mean, I'm sitting there. It was starting to depress me. I'm going.
I know.
I'm going. They're so blatant. They're going to steal Kari Lake. I couldn't believe it. And you're right. In the past, that was 1 o'clock in the morning.
They're so stupid, dude. Oh my God, they're so stupid. 45-18. I'm writing this one down too. They're going to steal Kari Lake.
And in the past, you'd go, "Oh, that's it,"
Yeah.
But we've learned one of the things these last two, the last how many elections here? 2020, the primaries, and now the midterms. We've learned so much, and now we know where the cheats are. We know where to look. We even know we're telling these states which machines to go after and stuff, or which pockets to go. So we've learned so much. But yeah, that would be in the past. That's why it's kind of sad that Oz conceded up there, because Dr. Oz, in the time we're in, there's no you don't concede because of what we've learned, and the mail.
I guess Oz just is not an election denier. He has engaged in election denialism, but he decided not to go hard at election denial. He decided to give it up when he realized there was no chance of winning. What does the election denial really do for you anyways? It does nothing. It doesn't win you the election. It just destroys democracy. That's it. Trump and others denied the election results over and over and over and over and over again. Did they get into office as a result of their election denial? No, they didn't. What happened is they just destroyed democracy little by little. That's all. Didn't help anybody. It hurt people, though. That's it.
It's like having two elections. You have the cheating election with the mail-ins,
right,
and the early voting, and then you have the day of. And they didn't. I'll tell you what, Gene. By not only you having when you guys got the word out. I know I spoke at a couple of your events, but when we put the word out all over the country to vote day of,
right,
and that made a big difference. I really believe that overrode at least we know 3 other races where it overrode the algorithms.
Overrode the algorithms. Give me a break. This guy has absolutely no clue how computers work whatsoever. I don't know who his alleged cyber guys are, but he needs to get new ones. They have no idea what they're talking about if they're advising him this way. This is absurd.
And all of them are going to win in Arizona. I really believe that. The votes that are left, everybody, in Maricopa County are very similar to what was left. Even more so because these people that went there, they are Kari Lake voters, okay?
Right.
They're the ones that were upset their ballots didn't go in the machines. And by the way, I want to say one last thing. Remember, this isn't about just Maricopa's machine. 32 other states that we know of, people got there and their ballots didn't work,
right,
or they said they'd already voted. I mean,
Then I need evidence if this is true. Just give me a little evidence. That's all I'm looking for. Just a little bit of evidence. Isn't it interesting how they never have any to turn over?
We had crime at crime.frankspeech.com. We have thousands and thousands and thousands. We have to go through. We have a team sorting this. It's just incredible. This is everywhere. It's just that Arizona happened to be the focus of the news, so at least the news got out there that these machines got to go.
That's right. They do. They got to go. All right, Rick, one of the last race I want to talk about that was disturbing was what was happening with Lauren Boebert there in Colorado.
Ooh, yeah, Boebert. It seems like she's losing right now. Fantastic news, right? She's losing by like 60-something votes. It is such a close race for her. Oh, my God. Adam Frisch is her opponent, and it's looking more and more like he's going to take it.
Looks like Boebert's opponent, Adam Frisch, conceded to her. So Boebert will still be in Congress, unfortunately, but oh my God, was it close.
Have you got any news on that?
Yeah, I was just talking to her on the break, guys. Listen, she's a good friend of your program, and everybody on here knows her.
Right.
She's, I think, one of the brightest spots in American politics, and certainly one of the best members of Congress that we have. She's down by 73 votes right now.
Wow.
It's literally 49.99% to 50.01%. 73 vote difference. There's a county that's supposed to be dropping about 5,000 votes here in about an hour. Was the last thing that she told me. So be praying, everybody. That's a very important.
Yeah, because prayer most definitely resolved the whole problem last time, right? Prayer will fix any issue if you have it, apparently. Oh, except for literally every issue these people ever have.
Important race, and part of the reason it's important is because you got all these freshman members of Congress coming in that have good hearts and good intentions, but the swamp will eat them up without good leadership. And Lauren would be a great leader for that next class and a good example for them of good biblical backbone. We need her in Congress.
Boy, that's so true. So, Rick, do you think we'll know something as soon as tonight?
This is a prime example of why it matters that you vote right here, because elections can be this close.
So I think we'll know in a couple of hours, honestly.
Well, that's
but now
wonderful.
I would expect, Gene, that's a likely recount at that close.
Sure.
You're talking about.
Oh, 100%. It would most definitely be a recount. And a recount could even flip it. Hell, it may be a recount anyways. If it's within 1%, I believe, it's an automatic recount territory in most situations, depending on the state. I would say this is probably an automatic recount territory anyways. That'd be my guess, but I don't know.
Less than 0.01%. So
Right.
We may not know for sure for several days.
But that's a long way from where it was, especially last night. That's good news. All right, Pastor Hank, we're full circle back to you. I mean, it's been an hour, almost an hour's worth of good news coming back over the air, back to everybody watching, and we're to be encouraged. And I still remember, the first time we talked about 1 Kings 18, and I've thought about that all day, yesterday and today, off and on. When the children of Israel were crossing that sea, halfway through is when things started falling apart, but they had a long way to go to catch up with the rest of the Egyptians as they were getting crashed into the water and everything going on. That really seems to be where we're at. We're halfway through and we're looking back. We're seeing it. Right. We're not. Everything's not in the water yet, but it's coming. That wave is coming.
Yes, and one thing is, and again.
Okay, that was a weird, confusing analogy, but all right.
And that's Exodus 14 with the Red Sea. It was at the place of the middle that is when God began to act. Another prophetic narrative or a prophetic example that is playing out today is 1 Kings 18, like you mentioned, where the prophets of Baal, they dressed it up. They made a scene. They made it look like that they were being backed by some, supernatural power or whatever. But ultimately, it was at the midday or the midterm that God determined it was his turn, just like the Red Sea, and he was going to take them out. And that's exactly what he did. And I thank God, by the way, Mike, for your crime slime or whatever it is time.
Crime slime? What?
Revealing the crime slime. I forget what you called it. What was it? Real-time crime slime or whatever it was.
Yes, real-time crime.
Where'd you get slime from?
It's like, because they're doing this slimy stuff. You would think that these guys
You've been
would
hanging
get a
out with
clue.
Lance again. You have been talking to Lance too much.
Probably. But you know what? I want to say this to encourage because, I think about this with Mike Lindell. I was talking to him once about this. Judges 5 is another prophetic narrative that I want to give hope to the people that the Lord said before the midterm that this would play out. Judges 5 is about these characteristics. Are you ready? Watch this. There were brave leaders that arose. That's what we're seeing with this that happened just last night. People got elected. Brave people got elected. Willing people. For the first time, man, look at the numbers, the lines, the people that showed up to vote. That was Judges 5. There was also judges that began to rise up in the book of Judges. We're going to see judges of this land start settling the case of a lot of this corruption and real-time crime slime. And it also said in Judges 5, the governors arose. Look at what happened with some of the governors that God put in for us in this midterm. And then lastly, Deborah arose as a mother in Israel.
Deborah arose as a mother in Israel. Okay.
In other words, the citizens arose, and God began to turn it back at all levels. Lastly, Deuteronomy 6:23. It's a scripture that if you're looking for 2023, notice verse 23, Deuteronomy 6:23. God brought them out. Who did it? God. To bring them in, to give them the land that he promised. God's bringing us out. He's going to bring us in. He's not done. And we're going to get America back. And I thank God for that. So that's the word of the Lord today.
Amen. Amen. All right. So we got just like 5 minutes. Rick, I want to give you a couple minutes here to give us your final thoughts. What do we need to look for other than Representative Lauren Boebert here in the next couple hours?
Well, Gene, just a reminder that we have a tendency to put everything all in on one election and think that that's going to change everything one way or another. I want to take us back to what Hank said at the very beginning of the program. It was incremental. They took the land incrementally. That's how God.
Yeah, absolutely. It is incremental. One election isn't going to change everything, although you could argue that some elections have changed a lot. Like, for example, the 2016 election pushed things into motion that would eventually affect an awful lot of stuff over time. So, some elections do affect a lot, but it is an incremental thing, and it's something that you have to continue to do. You have to keep going back and keep voting and keep working and keep fighting and donating your time and money and everything. Keep fighting.
God gave it to them, and we need to remember that. So whatever happens at the outcome of this particular election this week, our attitude has to continue to be duty is ours, results are God's. And that means we do our duty no matter what the results on a particular election or a particular occasion. We got a lot of great work to do. We can have joy while we're in the fight. We should be righteously angry right now at the evil that's marching across the land, but we can be joyful because we know that we can count it all joy when we experience these kind of trials that our nation is going through. And I agree with you. There's so much good news to look at, a lot of victories that we can hang our hat on. And even against all of those institutions being controlled by the left, we still had those victories.
Again, he said this at the very beginning of this. I'm going to reiterate. Institutions are not being, quote-unquote, controlled by the left. What he means when he says that is that institutions are not being controlled by the right, and that's what he cares about. He thinks that if they're not being controlled by the right, then it means they're being controlled by the left. And it's not even just the right, it's the hard right. They have to be controlled by him, by the hard right extremist Trumpist people, or it's controlled by the left. It's a false dichotomy. It's like if you are to the left of hunting the homeless for sport, then you're an enemy. That's his headspace.
Victories last night, and we still see that groundswell at the local level that Cressan was talking about. So let's keep up the good work.
Amen. Amen. That's really good. I like that incremental victories. We have to keep.
They're trying to be positive after losing terribly. They lost terribly in the 2022 midterms. Technically, they made some gains by 6 seats or so, probably thanks to gerrymandering primarily. But they should have expected to gain like 30 seats. They should have expected to gain 4 Senate seats. They didn't. And that was absolutely a shock to them.
And I forget, it may have been you that we're talking about at the beginning. I think it was you, Rick. The fact is that we're winning all these lower races, the down ballot races.
Not that many. They have not won that many down ballot races. A few. It doesn't look much different on a local level than it does on a federal level.
That really make the difference 4 years from now, 2 years from now, 6 years from now, because all of these people are making decisions. I know locally where we live, not too far from us, is a very small town whose public library has some books in there that should not be in there. And
Wow! Just come right out and say it. I want to ban books. Gotta love it, right?
You're thinking, hey, this is Texas. This is a rural town. How did this happen? Those are the things that affect us the most with our kids and our grandkids.
Freedom of speech. That's how it happened. Are you kidding me? How did that happen? Freedom of speech, baby. What happened to them being all about freedom of speech? They were never about freedom of speech. You know what they were about? They were about spreading their own propaganda. That's what it has always been about for these people. They don't give a shit about your free speech. Never have. They've cared about spreading their propaganda at any cost. And they use free speech as a bludgeon to accomplish that goal. It's honestly kind of disgusting.
Grandkids, and we're not putting up with it. So thank you for reminding us with that, Rick. All right, Mike, I'll give you a couple minutes here to wrap up.
Yeah, I want everybody keep the faith. I'm looking at everything from the big picture, and I don't think we could have came out of this better than we did. It's perfect.
No, actually, you failed miserably, but okay. You keep telling yourself it was perfect.
Got enough crime that was caught, the real-time crime, and we're going to go after that. Will races get overturned? I don't know, but the ultimate goal is to get where we have elections again and not selections. We don't want to be Venezuela, or we don't want to be what Brazil could be. We need to pray for Brazil that something gets done there. There was 5.1 million votes stolen from President Bolsonaro. And
Bolsonaro? Who the holy fuck is that? First of all. Second, no, there were not 5 million votes stolen from Bolsonaro. There weren't. He conceded, I believe, and said that he was going to cooperate with the transition. The fact that Lindell is spreading this nonsensical propaganda is honestly sad and disgusting. And if I were Bolsonaro and I really wanted to cooperate with the transition, I would specifically instruct Mike Lindell to shut the fuck up about it. Let's keep listening, because I have some things to say at the end of this video about what I think that they've been doing this whole time.
And that was a lesson, I think, to us. All the stuff that happened before this is, you got the voter turnout. I think people got engaged, we were educated, and I think one of the things is people, they tried to take away our hope last night, but today it's all back and it's tenfold bigger than it was. And I just want to encourage everybody, when we get way out here, you're going to look back and everything had to happen just the way God intended. And I want to tell everyone, stay in the Word, be proactive in prayer. Our prayers will align. We're in the greatest revival ever for Jesus Christ in history. And just enjoy it. It's the best time to be alive, Gene.
It is. It is. Thank you, Mike. All right, Pastor Hank, you got a couple minutes. Go ahead.
All right, I'll tell you what. I'm going to talk about it before we hear Hank's. In my opinion, I think what they were doing, I think they all got together before this show started, and they said to themselves, how are we going to come at this? It's obvious now that talking about election fraud made people lose. People who were endorsed by Trump or who complained about the election being stolen or whatever other thing, by and large, lost their elections. The extremists lost. Democrats were criticized for actually funding the campaigns, advertising for Trump extremists during the midterms to get them on the ballot. Rightfully, they were criticized for that. They should not have done that. That was a risky strategy. However, that risky strategy paid off. I don't really care if it paid off. They shouldn't have done it. But either way, the extremists lost by and large in this election, which told people, first of all, we don't want to hear about election fraud. Second, we don't like Trump anymore. We don't like being discouraged. And I think that's what these people got together before this show took place and discussed. They discussed the fact that they should lighten up on the election fraud stuff. They should be a little more positive and happy about things. And they had Mike Lindell on. Naturally, he's going to talk about election fraud. That's his whole fucking personality at this point. But I suspect they decided it was an intentional decision to go light on the election fraud and Trump stuff. And they did speak positively about DeSantis, mildly. They said, we won in Florida, and that's a huge win. I'm so glad, blah, blah, blah. Remember, this is the Trump wing of the party that we're watching right now. These are the Trumpers. I think that's really fascinating. That's a fascinating dive into the strategy that they believe is working. We can look to this program to see what they think the country is doing and where they think the country is going, and use that to decide where we should go and what we should do. It's clear now the country's moving away from Trumpism and away from election denialism. It's moving toward DeSantis. He seems to be the head of the Republican Party at the moment. Trump's time is over. And these people are starting to catch on to that and are trying to get with the program. So let's hear Hank Kunneman's closing remarks.
You know what I think very strongly is there was a situation in the Bible where the people wanted quail. God gave them quail. It was between their teeth. And he said, I'm going to let them experience this quail until they've had enough of it. Well, that's what's happened with this lack of election integrity, these machines. God's going to allow this. He's allowing it, but ultimately it's going to change. And the reason it's going to change is there's another example in Scripture where the serpents bit the people of Israel, and God used a serpent.
Why does he keep calling it Israel? That's weird. I've heard a lot of other Trump extremist pastors refer to it as Israel also. Just odd, right?
Serpent told him, take it and put it on a pole, and it would be a symbol of healing. What am I saying? This that has bitten us with these dominion machines are about to become a symbol that will ultimately be done away with, that's going to heal this nation and bring us back together, that we will never face this kind of election lack of integrity again. We are coming into a great reform.
Are they setting things up right now to walk away from election whatever, like walk away from the claims of election fraud or whatever else? I get the impression that they're setting it up. They claimed that there was a little bit of election fraud, but I think they've realized that this is a losing battle, so they're setting themselves up for a situation where they can claim that there is no more fraud. Fascinating.
We are coming to great reform. Technically, it looks like we lost Pastor Rob McCoy, but I want to say thank you to him for joining us tonight along with Chris Ann. But ladies and gentlemen, I really do hope you were encouraged tonight. This is great news. We need to just keep our foot on the gas. We can't give up yet on one side, but we've got a lot of work to do. We've got a lot of things coming up. As soon as we get...
It really wasn't great news for them at all. Republicans won a few seats. They're not going to be able to do absolutely anything. They can't do shit. It was terrible news for them. But they recognize that hearing bad news 24/7 depresses the vote, depresses people, and they stop listening. That's my suspicion.
Get past this election and the results and the real-time crime slime that Pastor Hank's talking about. Once we get past all that, we've got to stay engaged. We've got a lot to do. You know, we've been on every night this week. That's pretty different. I wonder what that would feel like if we were on. I don't know. Anyway, so thank you guys for watching Flashpoint. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining tonight. Looking forward to what we're going to see coming up real soon.
Well, that's the end of it, I guess. That is really interesting. I always love watching this stuff to try to get an idea of what they think the winning strategy is. This is like a multi-million-dollar conglomeration. This Flashpoint, this TV show, and the network it's on, the Victory Network, and the person that owns and operates it, Kenneth Copeland, are all filthy rich. They have money to put into market research and to... I mean, this is propaganda, plain and simple. This whole thing is propaganda. So watching their propaganda to see what they think is the best strategy or whatever is extremely valuable. They are telling us effectively what they discovered in their market research. If we just listen to it and think about what they're saying, it can be endlessly valuable to us. And that is why I love watching this stuff. It tells us what they think. It tells us what they've discovered with the millions of dollars that they have to spend on this stuff. So anyway, let me know what you think about this. If you want to see more stuff like this, tell me in the comments or on Twitter @TelltaleAtheist.